Well, he's trying to make a comeback via a write-in. We'll see what the prospects are tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
The Majority Leader of the State House, longtime Representative John DeSimone at District 5 in Providence, is attempting to do what no other man has done before, and that is to win a write-in race. And we'll see what he's thinking, whether this stuff is just, an anomaly, having lost to his primary opponent, or whether he really thinks that this whole thing is, in the district bag based on his veteran status. So John will join us momentarily, and I welcome you in to my State of Mind on this Wednesday evening, pre-debate. So 7:30, you folks haven't seen it yet. If you're watching at midnight, like so many of you do, we'll talk all about it tomorrow with our panel, all right? In the meantime, let me swing over to the rundown side and just say what we got to say about debate number 3. We're not going to spend a lot of time here because I want to spend some quality time with the Representative DeSimone, but the headlines are typical. Millions, probably less millions in the second, which was less millions than the first, but there are still a percentage of people who say they're undecided in this race, and so it's obviously, really important. From this headline's lips to God's ears, that we actually have a serious conversation about things like the Supreme Court tonight. I don't know, it seems to me like it's going to be kind of a circus, and Donald Trump is reportedly invited the President Obama's half-brother, people who are accusing Bill Clinton of things, and so the deck or the audience is going to be stacked with alleged distractions for Hillary Clinton. Of course, he's claiming it's a rigged election, so he's trying to hedge his bet against a loss here. I'm not so sure what kind of leadership or American patriotism is involved in this chronic, prediction that the election is going to be rigged, and the president called him out on it today.
Invite Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes. If whenever things are going badly for you and you lose, you start blaming somebody else, then you don't have what it takes to be in this job.
All right. So again, you're watching at 7:30. Good luck. I mean, I ran into a bunch of people today, all of whom were doing things like reminiscing about old-fashioned debates like Bush and Dukakis, who were pleasant to each other, and wondering if civility will ever get back in. A couple of guys told me that they're taping the debate, but they don't know if they'll have the energy or the stomach to watch it. I don't know. This has been crazy. I guess Hillary's just got to hold down the fort and hope to outlast Donald Trump come election day. We'll see. Coming back home, I know we talked about this yesterday, but I wanted to take another run at it and just make another thought or two and actually get our guest perspective on this development. Headline here with Curt Schilling. This premise that the governor kind of set up by responding to questions about apology, that Curt Schilling ought to offer apology to the state of Rhode Island, is just inane. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the point of the matter is the governor ought to apologize for not doing the investigation she said she would, manage when she was running for office. It's amazing how these people who run for office promise you one thing and do another. Not always, but sometimes. Here's the latest from Eyewitness News.
After the radio interview, Schilling confirmed for me he had been interviewed by the state police as part of the criminal probe.
But when you go back and look at exactly what...
In his interview with John DePietro and WPRO, Curt Schilling claims he was told that former House Speaker Gordon Fox and Providence attorney Michael Corso, one of the architects of the 38 Studios deal, may have committed a crime.
You believe there should be people in jail?
Yeah, I think it's another follow the money.
Schilling did not say who made those claims. Earlier this year, the Attorney General announced no charges in the criminal probe. Schilling tells Target 12 he was interviewed by state police. Did you go before a grand jury?
No, nothing. I never got subpoenaed.
What were you asked about in that interview with
just
state
what
police?
I remember, just about the events, about what happened when and who and what I could remember and what I couldn't.
Corso's attorney shot back in a scathing statement accusing Schilling of slander. He wants to blame everyone but himself for making what has proven to be a very poor business decision, not only for himself and the state of Rhode Island, but Mr. Corso as well. Separately, Schilling also made this claim about the former Providence headquarters of 38 Studios.
We lived in that building for a year and a half. We never had a building occupation permit.
How did that happen?
Because I signed autographs for the people that were coming in to do the inspections, and apparently that was how it worked.
We looked into this claim and found that there had been some temporary occupancy permits issued for that building, so they were legally allowed to be in there. But we also found those permits expired 8 months prior to the company's collapse. With the Target 12 investigators, Tim White, Eyewitness News.
So today, Curt Schilling responded to the potential threat of some kind of defamation or libel or slander, depending on how it's all concocted, lawsuit from Michael Corso, the broker, if you will, and he just did the old "bring it on," just bring it on. So Schilling's enjoying the titillation, I think, of all of this, but just that notion that he didn't have a certificate of occupancy, but actually Tim found they did. And if you do some fact checking, since that's the popular term during the campaign, of a lot of what Schilling had to say, it requires a lot of homework. But in general, him pointing out and more or less confirming, at least from his perspective, that Steve Constantino, the former House Finance Chairman, was part of the threesome that knew all about this. Gordon Fox, who's in jail not for 38 Studios, but for other matters, Michael Corso and Steve Constantino. That's going to have Mr. Constantino looking for other answers versus what he had to say when he came to testify in front of the fledgling House Oversight Committee on that matter. Stay tuned. And then there's the run for Senate. We'll talk about that at the end of the evening. So let's get to our conversation tonight. Here's a headline that kind of teases what it is that we'll be discussing here. The Majority Leader of the State House of Representatives, the longtime rep from District 5, is John DeSimone. John, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk about the write-in nature of all of this in a little bit. But what's your general take on Curt Schilling's? I know you didn't get a chance to see. You were busy. You're in court. You're working for a living. All that kind of stuff. But tell me, in general, as a veteran guy and one who was there when it all came down, the loan guarantee vote, what's your take on the conversation that we're still having about Curt Schilling and 38 Studios?
Well, I think this, Dan, I think what happened was a tragedy, and I think what we should do...
Tragedy?
It was a tragedy for the state of Rhode Island, and I think what we really have to do is look at all the transcripts, all the investigation reports, and let's get everything out into the open so that the people of Rhode Island will really know exactly what happened. I don't think Mr. Schilling is probably the best person to tell that story. I think the actual investigation, the notes, the depositions, the transcripts, whatever investigative reports there are out there, they should be all released and let the people decide.
Do you think that the House Speaker, whose team you are on, did enough in the House oversight process for this 38 Studios?
Well, at the time there was an investigation going on, and we did bring Mr. Constantino in, and we were relying on the investigative authority of the state police and the federal officials or state officials to do their investigation. Now that they said that there is no investigation, that there's no criminal charges, I think it's incumbent upon the state police and the governor's office to call for those records so that we could see exactly what happened. And if we need to dig more, then we should dig more.
You will hold fast to the idea, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were unwitting about 38 Studios being in the pipeline when you voted yes on the loan guarantee program, correct?
Well, I mean...
Were you, most rep stories are that we passed a loan guarantee program in 2010 at $125 million. We voted for economic development. We did not know the 38 Studios.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I never even knew 38 Studios existed when I made that vote. I mean, we were voting
there were some newspaper stories about it, but I think there's a level of credibility when most reps say they were not aware that 38 Studios was in the pipeline, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And as you know, I was a majority leader at the time. Certainly, we voted for a program to provide job incentives so people could get jobs, and a program, not for one specific entity. That was a complete surprise to me and many others.
Yet there was attempts by the Republican side to limit the amount of money, at $5 or $10 million intervals, and that got swept aside. And Bob Watson, the then minority leader, made a stomping, famous speech and cast the only no vote against this. Mm-hmm. You didn't see the interview yesterday, but amongst the things that are like, holy cow about this circus, is Curt Schilling talks about having watched that speech live with Michael Corso, the broker. And Schilling was saying, hey, you know what, I get that guy's point. And he was actually sitting with these guys thinking, holy cow, that General Assembly doesn't even know that this whole thing is for me.
Yeah.
Reflection on that?
Yeah, the reflection is, you know, when you're in a leadership position, one of your main responsibilities is to inform your membership. So if the speaker, you know, knew anything at the time going in Fox, it was incumbent upon him to tell the rank and file what they were voting for. I certainly had no idea that we were voting for that type of loan to any one entity.
My final thought on this, I've always, listen, I've railed against the General Assembly in general for the last 6 years about, you know, having been switch pitched in a way on this thing and not having the anger and the tenacity and the temerity to demand that the whole thing be stripped down with your own investigation, high-powered, no matter what the state police and the colonel were saying about their ongoing simultaneous investigation. I just have never felt the kind of inertia, anger from reps who I believe were not part of this thing, but who were duped and just never came to the table to say, doggone it, not under my watch. Last thought.
My last thought is what my first thought was. We need a complete, transparent review of everything that happened regarding 38.
Separate from the governor, or just kicking out
Give
the
us
grand
every-
jury?
let's-
Just you just want requests for the documentation that
We
exists
want,
right now.
we want, and there's thousands of pages as I understand it. So let's get everything out in the open and let's see what actually happened. And as a result of looking at all those documents, if it's determined that we need to do more, then let's do more. But from my point of view, I'd like to see every single sentence in that investigation open to the public.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about this gentleman's challenge. He got nipped in the primary, and now he's taking a run on a write-in basis. In the meantime, let me just tell you that if you're thinking about remodeling your kitchen or your bath, Cumberland Kitchen Bath Design Center would be a great choice. For me, they were on time and on budget. And if you'd like to get some confidence about what your kitchen or bath could look like versus what it does now, go to cumberlandkitchen.com and take a good look at the before and after photos. They'll give you a sense of confidence. But if you believe anything I say, I will promise you that the way they do business will make you very happy. We'll be right back. All right, so Representative DeSimone just sent this to me. This is going out in mailers. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Wait till he finds out how people spell. It's all about intent, by the way, when it comes to write-in candidacy. Here's the story from the press conference last week.
Showing voters how to check the box and write in his name, House Majority Leader John DeSimone is not giving up.
Let's make history, and it's my time.
The House's number 2, DeSimone, has been Providence District 5 rep for almost 25 years, but lost his Democratic primary to school teacher Marcia Ranglin Vassell by 21 votes last month. He blames the loss on an out-of-state progressive group spending $16,000 against him. The group admits they originally failed to disclose the amount, but say they have now.
I believe that out-of-state money manipulated the voters of my district. They spread false claims.
I think it's pretty sad. In fact, I think it's pretty pathetic.
Ranglin Vassell says DeSimone needs to respect the voters' decision and laughed at the idea of special interests propping her up.
And I could show you my office that I run my campaign from. It's in my kitchen, so I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Beyond the write-in push, the Democrat also faces Republican Roland Lavallee, who also brushed away the impact of special interest on the race.
All my money is special interest. It's by friends and relatives and constituents. All of them are special to me.
Yeah, the definition of special interest is in the mind of the beholder, no doubt. Here's what intrigues me about your claim here. You're the longtime, well-known, and I'm guessing pretty well-liked guy in District 5. End of the story. The results are the results. Look at the actual vote count. You know, when it comes right down to it, 677 to 660, and then of course when the recount it was about 17 votes or so, or 18 votes, whatever, 21 votes. Special interest aside, and the liberal wing, if you will, of the Democratic Party and their efforts, you got caught flat-footed, didn't you? I mean, you kind of were cocky about this. I took you on the radio when you were suggesting that I don't know this woman, I don't see her in the district. Did that come back to haunt you?
No, I think what happened was there was a lot of out-of-state money that wasn't documented, and it wasn't a fair election. They spent probably upwards of over $100,000. This is just one entity, $16,000. There were multiple entities, and they haven't filed any reports yet, so I have no way of knowing.
You're saying they spent 6 figures in your district race?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if you look at this, that's one entity. There was the Working Families of Connecticut, the National Working Families. This was the one from New York. And what they did was the last 3 weeks, they went into my district with paid canvassers, and they spread false facts and documents. Like he hasn't paid his taxes in 5 years. He's never around the neighborhood. He doesn't care about the neighborhood. You know, things of that nature.
Well, you're in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is a tight-knit neighborhood. So I don't know how you couldn't deflect that. This is, when you say unfair election, I mean, I'm nauseated over Donald Trump's suggestion of rigging and all that kind of thing. You're treading a fine line. You know, all's fair in love and war. Unless they've done something illegal, elections are fair, correct?
Well, in this particular case, we have election laws. And the reason why you have to file expenditures is so that the other side could react. So if I don't know that there's paid canvassers out there 3 weeks before the election, I can't react. And I can't let my voters
saying
know.
that the financial exposure was tardy?
Tardy.
It was tardy.
It was filed the day of my press conference. My press conference was October 11th.
Yeah.
The primary was September 13th.
So is there a Board of Elections claim you filed or a complaint against the
most likely
candidate?
we will be filing a Board of Elections claim against this one entity, but as I said, there are multiple entities. And you know,
all that money that they put in, though, John, at the end of the day, all they could generate was 682 votes.
Exactly.
You're the incumbent, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Old-fashioned type of campaign, more or less think you got it in the bag and you got kind of caught flat-footed. It happens to veteran reps. Didn't it happen to you?
It does, and you know, the people of my district have called me and told me you should run a write-in campaign, and even at that, I was very hesitant until I read what I call a manifesto by Sam Bell. And I saw...
Sam Bell is one of the leaders of the
Rhode Island
left-wing group.
progressive
Yes.
group. And in the manifesto, which you could have, I saw where he got together multiple groups, and they came together into my neighborhood. And those groups are the ones that are going to represent District 5. And I was very upset at that, as you could imagine.
Well, you know, it's really interesting. I've knocked you around and the Speaker around for what I think is a little bit too cocksure disposition at the General Assembly. Yet, your politics are much more fiscally conservative, and the program that the Democrats in power have been running is wholly more palatable, I think, to economic success in this state versus what these groups are all about. It leaves the voters in a quandary sometimes. Old guard, but be careful what you ask for, because the new guard is very left. And that's what you're suggesting in terms of the manifesto, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And the manifesto was, in my mind, a roadmap to how they came into my district, manipulated my district, dragged people out of a certain viewpoint unfairly with all kinds of outside money. And the other people in my neighborhood, who I think are more representative of my neighborhood, came up to me, John, you know, I didn't vote. I thought you had it in the bag. I never heard of this woman.
But that's on you.
That is on me. And you know what? I'm going to right a wrong, because with this write-in, there's going to be a lot more people voting. And I fully expect the Dan Yorks of the world who are sitting at home, who may not have time to vote on primary day, are going to come out and vote for John DeSimone, and that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, well, I'm not in District 5, but I get his point. When we come back, we'll talk a couple of issues. Stay with us. Little history, we'll throw this graphic up, attempted write-in campaigns. This is an 0 for 7 or 8 here. The closest is Bruce Bayek, who was a write-in against the incumbent speaker, who of course was in a whole sorts of public relations hot water back in 2002. But in 2010, 3 reps who lost their generals were trying their primaries, attempted to write in, didn't get there. And even in Providence City Council in 2014. So you know the deck is stacked against you. Intent, of course, they write John DeSimone or get close to the spelling, it'll count.
But they have to fill in the dot as well.
Yeah.
Fill in, write in.
Is there a part of you that says, I'm reaching too hard?
No, you know, Dan, nothing was ever given to me in life, so I'm working hard for my district. I'm working hard for my neighbors. I'm working hard to make sure that there's going to be fair and impartial elections.
Speaker of the House is not, he was fairly quiet about your primaries anyway, but he's supporting the primary winner. The mayor, we've got a headline there where the mayor who did support you is now supporting the primary winner. So, you know, you're running up against party tradition here, and everybody kind of peels off by rote, right?
Pretty much, but you know, this is a neighborhood election, and I'm going to fight the battle in my neighborhood, and that's where all elections come from.
Talking about the tax issue, your payment of property taxes and the like, if they put into mailboxes that you didn't pay your taxes for 5 years, it's partial. It wouldn't make the true in PolitiFact. I mean, you're up to speed and you've got your taxes paid now.
Absolutely.
But you've been habitually tardy.
Yes.
Why?
Like anybody else, you know, I have certain balancing acts and struggles that I have to do, and I've apologized for that. At the end, it doesn't set a good example. But what's important is that I never received any special treatment. I paid all penalties and interest. At no time did I get anything special. That's on me. I've apologized for it, and I'm going to apologize to everybody else again. And it won't happen again. It sets a bad example. But I never received any special treatment, and it was just one thing that you know, we struggle with from time to time.
What do you think is the key motive for people to write you in? What is it that a John DeSimone re-election will bring or save the district from?
It will save the district from someone who is beholden to 3 or 4 special interests, and that's why they're there. I represent the people of my district. I'm not beholden to any one particular special interest. I'm beholden to the entire district, and that's why I'm running. I'm a neighborhood person who cares about the neighborhood. I'm not some canned candidate who had 3 or 4 special interests run their campaign, tell them what to do, and key on some certain issues. My issue is everybody in my district, and that's the way I've been for 24 years, and that's the way I'm going to continue to be. So someone who knows me for many, many years, who may not have seen me in 10 years, that person is going to come out and vote for me. And that's why I'm running.
Do you think you'll retain your majority position should you win this write-in candidacy? Have you talked to the Speaker about that?
I haven't talked to the Speaker, but I have every expectation that I will retain that position.
I don't know otherwise, but it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing comes out. All right. How much dough are you throwing into this writing thing? Are you draining the entire $50,000 ballpark that you've got?
Whatever's left, yeah, absolutely. I feel very strongly on this.
All in?
All in. All in.
And if you lose, are you out of politics?
Well, you can never say never, but if I lose this write-in candidacy, which will be a general election and a presidential election, I will feel as though I gave my constituency and myself, mostly myself, the opportunity to have a fair election by most of the people in my district.
In 10 seconds or so, lessons learned from this process so far?
Lessons learned is that you have to get out and work hard in your district, and I intend to do that.
All right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
John DeSimone.
Thanks, Dan.
Final word. Next, stay with us. Writing candidacies are tough, but you know, someone's going to win one once. We'll see. Marcia Ranglin Vassell is welcome to join us on this program. The outreach has been exhaustive. So, you know what? To the victor goes the spoils. You get your attention if you ask for it, and we'll see how that all goes. Obviously, if you're watching at 7:30, enjoy the debate tonight. If you're watching at midnight, how did you enjoy the debate tonight? We'll talk about it tomorrow, of course, with our panel conversation. And regroup at 3 o'clock on WPRO. Thanks for watching and listening. Good night.